When you think back to the great futuristic racing games of the 1990s, you probably picture F-Zero, wipEout, and maybe even Extreme G. Now what if I told you that there was a new game that combined the best elements of all three of those games, while also tossing in a fair helping of Street Fighter and a confetti gun getting shot directly into your face? Well, that game is Neon Apex, a stylish new racer with an anime look and gameplay that was influenced by, well, pretty much every futuristic racing game that came before it. Does all that add up to a must-own racing game? That's what we're about to find out when I review Neon Apex Beyond the Limit. Before we dive into their new game, I first want to talk about developer Repixelate. Although it wasn't their first game, I was first introduced to this UK-based developer back in 2018 when they released Velocity G, a fun, albeit flawed racer that was inspired by F-Zero and wipEout. They followed that up with Formula Retro Racing, a fun, albeit flawed racer inspired by Sega's seminal Virtua Racing. In both cases, I gave the games a B-, largely enjoying their style, but feeling a bit underwhelmed by the gameplay and the depth. Fast forward a few years, and now Repixelate is back with a new futuristic racer inspired by the same games that brought us Velocity G. With a cool new anime art style, a wide selection of made-up vehicles, and more modes than you're gonna know what to do with, I went into this game hopeful and excited. Even though I haven't exactly loved any of their games, Repixelate is one of those companies that's just on the verge of cracking the code and creating something truly great. And, at least at first glance, Neon Apex appears to be that game. It's the year 2124, and racing is a big deal. The world is fractured, and humans are forced to battle it out against both cybernetically enhanced racers and AI-driven androids in some of the most intense racing events since wipEout took us to 2097. It's man versus machine as we race, fight, and navigate our way through perilous tracks that take us from dystopian cities to forests to highways on the edge of the world. What you need to know is that the events are split into two types of races, one with cars and one with motorcycles. Each division plays out pretty much the same way, where the anime characters you select will buy, collect, and upgrade vehicles with 3 different speed classes to master. They'll earn some cash and experience points from each win, though some of that money is going to be eaten up by repairs and maintenance, which includes restocking your nitro boosts. The player will compete in a number of standard races where you and 7 other racers speed around a bunch of different laps, as well as one-on-one races and events that have you driving from point A to point B. What you'll quickly notice is that most of the levels take place in a futuristic city that apparently has the world's most complicated highway system. You're constantly running into forks that split the highway either left or right, with only one of them blocked off at a time. This means that some of the races are going to start out the same way, but will change drastically as we explore one part of the city instead of the other. This becomes important in the career mode, where you'll have to complete dozens of different events in order to level up the racer and the difficulty. Every time you complete an event, another one's going to pop up, and the way they make each race feel unique is by taking us to different parts of the city. This allows you to earn enough money to buy upgrades for the 25 different vehicles, with each one allowing you to improve their engine, power, grip, and strength a couple of different times. Like most futuristic racing games, it's going to take you a few plays before the loose gameplay fully clicks. This is a game that wants you to keep one finger on that drift button because you're going to need it to successfully negotiate some of these nasty corners, especially with other racers and random cars in your way. This is a game that absolutely wants you to know when you scrape against the side or hit one of the many obstacles. The sparks will fill up the screen and the color will be completely zapped away for a second. Some of this is stylish, but a lot of it is just really annoying. The truth is, I had an extremely hard time getting into Neon Apex. There are a few things right up front that'll blunt your progress, like how you'll have to spend money to simply enter a race or repair your vehicle. Oh sure, you'll earn a nice sum of money if you win, but you'll also end up burning through a lot of that cash in the early bits when you're still figuring out the gameplay and dealing with the overly aggressive computer opponents. The big issue early on is that the odds always feel like they're stacked against you. The problem isn't that you'll often get smacked into the side of the wall by a random opponent. That kind of thing happens all the time in racing games. Instead, the problem is that you'll be brought to a complete stop and then spend several seconds trying to get back into the race, which is now completely unwinnable due to something that was completely outside of your control. This is the kind of racing game where a single mistake will cost you the entire race. And did I mention that the computer cheats? You see, I kept running into this issue where I would take the early lead only to have the closest rival speed right past me in the last stretch. Sometimes it was literally a second or two before the race was over, giving me no time to react. Thankfully, this became less of an issue as the career mode went on, and by the end, there were some races where I was 8 or 9 seconds ahead of the competition. For whatever reason, most of the truly frustrating bits seem to be specifically reserved for the early parts of the game. You know, when you're still warming up to the gameplay and your limited selection of cars. The good news is that Neon Apex is full of different kinds of modes, so if you end up hitting a wall in career mode, you may want to try your hand at one of the other game types. For example, there's a story mode where you end up playing as Chase, who gets into a bunch of life or death races with other cybernetically enhanced and AI opponents. This gives you a bunch of dialogue-heavy cinemas, something that helps to fill in some of the details and then do some nice world building. It also allows you to visit new courses and locations, a welcome treat after racing so many events in that old nighttime city. Other game types include a championship mode where you'll race through 8 different stages in order to earn points and come in first. On the other hand, there's an arcade mode that attempts to recreate the thrills of old school racing games like Pole Position and Outrun by giving you a set amount of time to reach each checkpoint. There's also a time attack mode that is exactly what it sounds like, as well as a 2-player mode that lets you go up against a friend. Sadly, there's no online multiplayer, so you're gonna need to own a second controller and, have a friend. Oh, and did I mention that Neon Apex is occasionally a fighting game? I'm not talking about one-on-one races, which this game also has, but rather full-on hand-to-hand combat. Now, I wouldn't exactly call it a Street Fighter clone, but there's definitely punching, kicking, and combos. It's also terrible. The moves are slow and sluggish, the special attacks are not always reliable, and the computer opponent cheats. Also, for some reason, it always takes place in front of the same boring background. Sure, I suppose you could chalk it up to it being a silly little bonus round, but it's just not fun, and there are dozens of these identical fights. Look, while I certainly appreciate this game's ambition, there were times when I just wondered if it was doing too much. I mean, I love the different modes, but does the career mode really need to be this drawn out and repetitive? The story is cool, but it's really hard to care when the game only tells you what's going on instead of showing you anything. The gameplay can be fun, but it's undermined by having too much style. There were just times when I had a really hard time looking at the game. I wish that instead of adding a one-on-one fighting game that isn't any fun, that they would have instead tightened up the gameplay and toned down some of the effects. This is a game that I really wanted to like, but it never fully comes together. It's a futuristic racing game that has good ideas and a lot of ambition, yet it just can't stop getting in its own way. Between all the different modes and unlockables, I'd say there's enough here to give Neon Apex a tepid recommendation. This is yet another stylish racing game from Repixelate that is fun, but ultimately falls short of expectations. If what you're looking for is a racing game with a whole lot of modes, then let me introduce you to Neon Apex Beyond the Limit from Repixelate. Featuring a lengthy career mode, an intriguing story mode, a championship league, time attack mode, and even a one-on-one fighting game mode, there's definitely a lot to do in this futuristic racing game. Unfortunately, the gameplay's a little loose, and the early parts of the game are extremely frustrating thanks to cheap computer opponents and a style that is overbearing at times. Couple that with repetitive stages that all blur together after a while, and events that are just no fun at all, like the hand-to-hand combat, and what you're left with is a racing game that aspires to stuff WipEout, F-Zero, and Extreme G into one game, but never ends up finding its own identity. Hey, thanks for watching my review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite futuristic racing game? Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we're going to be back tomorrow with another Nintendo Switch Online countdown. That is, unless they announce new games, and in that case, then it's going to be a review crew episode. While you wait to find out what it's going to be, do me a favor and click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.